Hello everyone, this is Midlife Music Teacher and I'm Mrs. G. And in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about what my dream was for what I wanted to do for a living versus what ended up happening that put me on the path to becoming Midlife Music Teacher. Sometimes your dreams don't work out the way you plan. This is a story time. Let's take it from the top. This story starts when I was around 6 years old, and my parents decided that me and my sisters should, as we got to a certain age, participate in some kind of activity, whether it was sports or something else that piqued our interest. I, at that point in my life, knew that I wanted to dance, and not just any dance. I wanted to be a ballerina. So my mother signed me up for dance lessons at the dance academy that was affiliated with the premier ballet company in my state. My parents always encouraged us to do what we wanted. They're not the type of people that say, oh, they have to go and do the best. It just so happened that the executive director of the ballet company and the dance school was my grandmother's cousin. So that's why I ended up at that dance school, because the woman who ran it was a relative. I was very enthusiastic about ballet. I was serious about it. In fact, there were a few years in my little keepsake book where I wrote that, what do I want to be when I grow up? I wrote ballerina in the book. For the recitals each year, this wasn't your typical dance studio recital, which I've participated in and I've been an audience member in, and there's nothing wrong with those. Those are very entertaining. But we had to dance to classical music, classical instrumental music. That was it. Our costumes were tights, a leotard, and a little skirt. That was the costume. Depending on what level of a dancer you were, depended on what color your leotard was, as pictured here. The only people that wore real costumes were the dancers in the professional company. They would often wear the costumes and dance a scene from one of the ballets that they performed throughout the year. When I was in 5th grade, I was asked to participate in their yearly production of the Nutcracker. And although my role was not a dancing role, and so it went uncredited, it was an experience that gave me core memories and would drive me to some of the things that I love the most to this day. So my role in the Nutcracker was, I was a doll, and I appeared during the Drosselmeyer scene, and I had to crouch down in a barrel, which was on wheels, and they would put butcher paper over the top of the barrel. So it was me and one other girl. We each took a turn in the different barrels. So they would cover us with butcher paper, and one of the ballerinas would wheel us out onto the stage, and we would have to wait for the pyrotechnic cue. When we heard the pop, the bang of the pyrotechnics, we would pop through the butcher paper and then hand out the toys to the children, and then crouch back down into the barrel and be wheeled back off. That was it. That was the extent of my role. I believe the reason I was chosen is because I was 10 years old, but I was small. And so I was small enough to be in the barrel and yet old enough to follow directions, to not freak out because I was in this barrel. And I did get dropped once. The poor dancer who tipped me over was extremely apologetic, but I was okay. So I kept on reassuring her, I'm fine, I'm okay. Anyway, when I was through with my part, I would find a place so I could be out of the way. I made sure I was out of the way. It was a very big production. And I just soaked everything in, everything. From the dancers going on and off the stage, to costume changes, to the stage managers talking with the directors for the lighting, the music, the props, the costumes, all of the things that this production entailed, how it snowed on the stage. And I remember soaking this all in. Those were my Nutcracker experiences. From that point on, I began to learn Pointe. And these are my Pointe shoes from back then. And I always take them out every year when I do the Nutcracker with my third graders. Pointe was what really made me feel how beautiful and graceful and strong ballet dancers were. And it made me feel those ways learning Pointe. And I just loved dancing on Pointe. As the dancers in my class advanced, so did the level of artistry. For example, our dance teacher, who was also the director of the ballet company and the school, didn't just throw a record on a record player. No, she would hire local college students to come and play piano live for us while we danced in this dance class. That just took it to another level as far as the artistry and the beauty and the connection to the music. And that really, really stuck out in my mind. There was a live musician playing while we took our class. In the summer before I started high school, I was 13 years old, and I had an opportunity to audition for junior company. And before I auditioned for junior company, I had some conversations with my parents, with my mom specifically, because if I made the company, that was going to take a lot more time. I'd have to invest in more dance classes. I would have to spend more evenings doing it. And at the time, I was taking clarinet lessons, piano lessons, and not only ballet, but jazz dance classes. So if I was in company, there really wasn't much more wiggle room. So I would have to give something up. So I had decided that if I made company, I would quit the clarinet and I would quit band so that I could invest more time into dancing. The day of the audition was a super hot and sweltering August day. The dance studio had no air conditioning. A lot of me physically had changed since the time I did the Nutcracker. And at the audition, it was two other girls from my dance class auditioning. There were girls from younger dance classes. There were girls from other dance studios that were all auditioning for a spot in junior company. And when I look back at it now, me and the two other girls from my class that were auditioning, because a lot of the other girls in my class were already in junior company, either from a previous audition or an invitation. And looking back on it now, me and the two other girls, we didn't have your traditional professional ballerina bodies, if you would. And I didn't really look at that back then as something that would be considered. Well, I auditioned. I waited for the results, and I got my letter about a week later. It was devastating. I'm sorry. At this time, we're looking for younger girls to join the junior company. Younger. I was 13 years old. And I was very, very upset. A lot of my dreams were crushed. I felt devastated. I didn't want to be with my parents. I wanted to be with my friends. My parents were always very supportive. They still are very supportive of me. And, you know, they tell you what you don't want to hear at the time, that everything happens for a reason. This just wasn't meant to be. You're going to find other things that you're passionate about as well. Anyway, not what I wanted to hear at the time, but it was the truth. It was sound truthfulness. So I continued to take dance class, but just not in the level as I would have needed to if I was in company. And one of the things that happened when I was in my ballet classes is that I noticed very clearly that I was not treated the same way as the girls in my class who were in company. I wasn't an investment. The girls who were in company got much more attention, much more focus, and I felt that. I really felt it. And so it made me decide that I did not want to do ballet anymore. I continued to take jazz dancing for a little while longer. But because I wasn't in junior company, I continued to stay in band and playing the clarinet. As a freshman in high school, I auditioned for All-State and I made it into All-State. I would not have done that if I had quit band. As a sophomore, I convinced the middle school band director to let me come to the middle school during my study hall periods and work with the clarinet players in the middle school. As a junior, I was the only junior to sign up for a special music theory and sight reading class, which earned me a special label on my high school certificate that had academic and music. And I auditioned again for All-State as a senior. And when I made it into All-State as a senior, I just took in the whole experience. Because I stayed with playing clarinet and playing in the band, I also joined chorus as a sophomore in high school, which I never, ever, ever would have done if I was dancing. And my chorus teacher was very influential to me. She was my sponsor on Honor Society night. And I would not have had those experiences if I made it into company and became a dancer. In fact, at this point in my life, I probably would have retired from being a professional dancer, probably would have been teaching. Probably in my path all along is to be a teacher. And so when your dreams don't work out exactly the way you think, it doesn't mean that there isn't going to be another opportunity. I feel blessed to be a music teacher, a midlife music teacher. I have taught thousands of students and I feel very blessed. I'm very proud as some of these students will reach out to me and I teach some of their children now. Some of my current students now are children of former students. And I don't take this for granted. I really, really feel like my job has purpose. This is what I was meant to do. This is what I was meant to be. I still love ballet. I love the beauty and gracefulness of it. And we study the Nutcracker every year. And I bring out my shoes and we talk about ballet and we talk about Mr. Tchaikovsky. And I just tie it into my past. And that's the story. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please hit subscribe. And with that, we'll end on a high note. I'll see you next time. Bye.